Hey guys, what is up and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we are going to be taking another look at Yuzu Emulator, where Super Smash Bros Ultimate is now finally booting. Now in the video today we are going to be taking a look at, first of all, the very latest Yuzu Canary version, which as I said is now booting Smash Bros Ultimate, but I'm also going to give you a little preview of some up and coming changes that are going to dramatically boost how this game boots and how it runs in this Nintendo Switch emulator. On top of that, I'm also going to be going over some more optimizations which we have seen arrive from the previously shown off Patreon preview build that are also now in this latest Yuzu Canary version in the form of Super Mario Maker 2 now being basically fully played, albeit without the online functionality of the game again on Yuzu Emulator. So before I start and before we jump into the video, I want to give an absolutely massive thank you to all of my supporters over on patreon.com. Without your guys' continued support, I would not be able to put out as many videos as I already do. And if any of you guys out there want to help with the day-to-day running of BSoD gaming, please consider heading to the Patreon link in this video's description and pledging to support the channel. As I always say, pledges and donations are absolutely not a requirement for help either here on YouTube or over on my Discord, but if you can help in any way, especially so considering the amount of my videos that have been removed and deleted by Nintendo in the past 2 or 3 weeks, it would be much appreciated. So again guys, now that all that's out of the way, let's jump straight into the video and take a look at Super Smash Bros Ultimate and booting on a Yuzu emulator. Okay, so as I said, first of all we're going to be taking a look at the latest Yuzu Canary version, which as you can see at the very top section of this window is Yuzu Canary 2462. Now on this latest Yuzu Canary version, it does boot the game, load into its menus, load into game, and even renders 3D graphics. However, the loading times when booting this game are absolutely horrendous. It took me about 6 minutes to actually boot the game on Canary, and then the loading time between actual sections, for example in between the first title screen menu then getting to the actual menus of the game, is painfully slow. So that's why I'm going to be showing you a little bit later on an updated version of Yuzu Canary with one singular PR that massively speeds up the loading times, playability and performance of this game. So here you can see we're just about to load the title menu of Smash Ultimate, and this is exactly how fast it runs in real time on latest Canary. So you can see it's really slow currently, but as I said, in a few minutes I'm going to be showing you the updated version. Well, I guess it's not an updated version, but it's a version of Yuzu Canary that has one PR merged to it that dramatically speeds all this up. So you can see in real time that it's pretty damn slow. It's running at like between 0.5 and around 3 frames per second, and as I said, it only really happens in the areas between loading screens. You can see we're probably going to jump up to around 60 frames per second now that it has actually loaded, and you can see it saying press any button. I'm just going to press A on my controller and it's going to load us into the next screen. And again, I'm going to have to speed up this footage because it is, as I said, painfully slow to load between these menus. But there you go, you can see we are now loaded into the title menu of Smash Ultimate, where again you can see it's running at, I would say, fairly decent performance levels, even though its render quality of these screens isn't perfect. So again, you're going to see when we do any loading between any of these menus, it's going to basically freak out and drop to like 2 or 3 FPS, and it's going to take an absolute eternity to get to this next menu. So again, I'm going to speed up the gameplay footage and get us into the next screen. So again, if you're used to Super Smash Bros Ultimate, this is just the rule set screen, and I'm just going to press A again on my controller, and again it's going to completely freak out, lag out, and again I'm going to speed up the gameplay footage so that we can actually get into the next screen again. So this is going to be the stage selection screen, and while yes it does load and have a very good performance, you're going to see when we actually move around in it, it's super laggy, and every time you pretty much select any of the tiles, it's just going to drop your frame rate down to around 3 or 4 frames per second. Now, one thing that I thought was really cool was if you come to, like, let's say for example the Great Plateau Tower, and you come to any of the musical tracks for it, all of these fully work on the emulator right now. So yeah, that's something I didn't expect, especially so with all of the audio issues that Yuzu seems to have with most of its games. Again, it's not the most important thing for this game's playability, it's just something that I thought was really really cool. So again, as soon as I select this as an arena, it's gonna again freak out, drop down to around 1 or 2 frames per second, or even lower at times. So again, I'm going to speed up the gameplay footage and get us into our next screen. So on our next screen, you can see I had to speed it up even more to get through it because performance is super bad when you get to this screen. First of all, you can see we're hovering in around 3, 4, maybe 5 frames per second. And again, if you wait around on this screen for about 30 or 40 seconds, it will jump up to about 25 or 30 frames per second. Again, obviously not ideal performance, but at least it doesn't crash. And as long as it doesn't, I'm going to continue and we're going to try to get into gameplay and see some rendered 3D graphics. So again, I'm going to speed through this because it's super slow, and I'm going to try to get us into some actual gameplay. The next thing we're going to be met with is the Smash logo just before the character introduction. And again, unsurprisingly, its performance is absolutely terrible, running at like 1 or 2 frames per second. Skipping ahead a little bit, you should see that your performance will stabilize on the introduction screen, where we're going to probably jump up to 60 frames per second again. And once we actually load into gameplay, there you go, you can see the very first rendered graphics in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate on Yuzu Emulator. Now obviously you could see there that there was a vertex explosion on Link's shield, which is pretty weird to be honest. That doesn't happen every time, and as soon as your game counter for the start of the fight goes to 1, it's pretty much just going to softlock on this screen and not render or progress any further, so I'm just going to close this off for now. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to jump across to my other screen, and I'm going to grab this folder, come to my build folder and this release folder, and this is just a version of Yuzu that I built locally. This is simply Yuzu Canary, and it has one singular PR merged on the top of it that hopes to speed up this Smash Ultimate experience. Now, one thing I do want to note is that at least right now for this game, if you want it to boot, you need to make sure to turn off asynchronous GPU emulation, and I'm just going to search for Smash Ultimate, and let's just boot it again. Now this time, unlike the last time, I'm not going to be doing any skipping or speeding up the video, mostly because I want to show you just how much this new PR affects the bootability and usability of Smash Ultimate on this emulator. So the last time we booted it, it took us about 3 or 4 minutes to get through that launching screen. When we got through it, it was running at around 1 or 2 frames per second, and it took us about 3 or 4 minutes to get to that little loading icon. Then it took us about another 3 or 4 minutes to get to the actual intro video, where you could hear the kind of broken audio, and in a few moments you should hear it coming up and playing back absolutely perfectly, unlike before. So here it comes. And again, as I did before, I'm just going to skip it and show you how fast we get into the actual menus of Smash Ultimate. So unlike before, where it took around 3 minutes, again, it was pretty much instant and we are straight away into the menu of Smash Ultimate. Again, when I press A on my controller, it's not going to take us 2 or 3 minutes and it's not going to crash. It's just going to instantly load into this menu, where again, we're running 4 to 10 frames per second higher than we previously were, and you can see just how much of a night and day difference this one singular update has been for this game. It's not taking us 3 or 4 minutes to load between all these menus, and once we come to this screen, you can see we are no longer horribly lagging out when we move between these different tiles. So again, to give you a like for like showcase, I'm again going to come to this music section and let's play one of these tracks. Again, as expected, they play back the exact same as they did on the previous build. Since none of this playback was an issue there, I didn't expect it to be an issue here. So let's just turn off this song and come here and actually select the Great Plateau Tower. And again, we're not going to have to wait 10 minutes to load into these menus, and pretty much straight away we should be loaded into the character select, where immediately we jump up to around 30 to 35 frames per second. So who will we pick? Pikachu or no? Let's pick Link, since we are going to be fighting on the Great Plateau Tower, and let's just try to select ready to fight and hope it doesn't crash in any of these screens. Now it does still lag a little bit between these loading screens, and it's not related to shader cache stutter, but as you saw in the previous build, I had to speed it up at some points by 6,000% to get into the next screen, and right here in real time it's absolutely perfect. And again, right there you can see we got no vertex explosion on Link's shield, and you can see that 3D graphics wise it's actually not rendered terribly at all. Now unfortunately it does the exact same thing once you get into a battle here. It just locks to 60 frames per second and doesn't proceed any further as soon as you hit the count of 1 on the timer. But to be honest, the 3D rendered graphics, being as they are pretty damn awesome, and it's kind of hard to make it out, but the characters are actually just standing in a T-pose, which is apparently due to the fact that compute shaders are not currently implemented on Yuzu emulator, and it is these compute shaders that are responsible for the animations of the characters. Now, while I know that yes, compute shaders are being worked on by the Yuzu devs, we're going to have to wait and see just how it affects this game's rendering and playability once those are added. So while it's cool to see it rendering graphics, for now I'm going to be closing this and I'm going to relaunch the latest Yuzu Canary version, where I'm going to be taking a look at Super Mario Maker 2, which, as I believe, should now be playable on the latest Canary version. So let's not scroll down, let's just type Mario into the filter bar and let's boot Super Mario Maker 2. Another thing that should be completely fixed on the latest Yuzu Canary version is the shader cache corruption issue that was happening to lots of people in games like Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, meaning that you can now pretty much always leave the disk shader cache option enabled in Yuzu. But check it out, Super Mario Maker 2, as I previously said, is indeed now booting and rendering graphics, and also running at really good performance levels on this latest Yuzu Canary version. Here we are in its title menu. Let's just jump around and see what performance is like. Runs pretty well for me, it's running at 60 frames per second, but to be honest, if I unlocked it, it would probably be running anywhere between around 85 to 90 frames per second. So let's just click play, and no, let's not click play. Let's come back to the previous menu and let's click make, because I want to show you that not only is it usable, but you can also use your mouse in order to build any of these courses, meaning that, well, I guess Yuzu's Super Mario Maker may actually be one of the better places to play Super Mario Maker, especially now that we have touch support. One thing that's a little bit weird is performance does seem to drop down by around 10 or 15 frames per second when you're swapping between themes, but to be honest, that's no massive issue considering it jumps straight back up. So let's click into story mode again using our touchscreen controls, and you should see that as soon as we load in, yep, we're going to jump straight back up to 60 frames per second. So what's it going to run out in this? So I'll just highlight the window and I'll limit my frame rate. And yeah, you can see that even in this 3D area, which is one of the most demanding areas in this entire game, it jumps up from 60 to around 80 to 85 frames per second, which is really cool. So there we have it, guys. Not only is Smash Ultimate now booting and rendering 3D graphics, but Super Mario Maker, a game that released only last week, is now not only booting, but also pretty much entirely playable, at least in regards to all of its online functionality on Yuzu. To be honest, that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover in this video. Kind of wrapped up. I just wanted to give you a quick update on the goings on in relation to Smash Ultimate on Yuzu, and also let you know that Super Mario Maker is now playable on its latest Canary version. Again, as I always do, I will be doing game compatibility updates on all of these new additions to Yuzu in the coming days. So again, if there are any games you would like to see me test using these new upgrades, please let me know down below this video in a comment. So that's pretty much going to be it for this video, guys. Once again, cheers for checking it out. Remember to like it if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't, and as always, subscribe to the channel if you want to see all future videos from me.